He found to his great amazement that much of his son's time was spent in helping the deceased and the destitute of the neighborhood, and he would not take even a drop of water without carrying relief to them. Very often, he would not only give medicine free to the poor, but also help them with money to obtain proper food. If he happened to meet any destitute sufferer deserted in the street, uncared for and unnoticed, he would take him to his place and nurse him with the tenderest care. Sometimes he would offer his own dishes to the hungry beggar, choosing to starve himself. All these acts appeared to Deen Dayal as quite strange and unpromising for the future of his son. One day, Nagmahashaya went on a visit to a poor man's house, and there he found the patient in a most deplorable condition. He at once set himself to nursing and remained by his side, consoling him with soothing words and looking to his other needs. In the night, he came to him again. It was winter. The old tiled roof of his house, with its 1,000 holes and cracks, was no barrier to the chill of the wintry night. And as if that was not enough, he found further that the patient had little or no clothing at all. Nagmahashaya thought within himself that his case was very serious, and that if he were allowed to remain exposed, the case would prove fatal. He had a thick woolen shawl on his person. He quietly spread it over the patient and slipped away. The patient called him repeatedly, but he did not return. He only replied from outside of his house, "Don't be afraid, tomorrow I shall come to see you again." Next morning, when he visited, the patient began to express very feelingly his deep gratitude to him. Nagmahashaya merely remarked that there was nothing extraordinary in the matter, that he had felt his need of warm clothing more imperative than his wound, and that he had therefore left the shawl with him. At home, Deen Dayal asked him about it, and on knowing the facts began to scold him severely and make a great row about it. As a result, both the father and the son went without food that day. Next morning, Deen Dayal got another woolen wrapper for his son. Another day, when Nagmahashaya went to treat a poor man, he found that the patient lying on the bare floor of his room. The sight was unbearable to him. There was an extra bedstead in Nagmahashaya's house. At once, he took it to the patient's place and first laid him on it and then commenced his treatment. Such acts were not to Deen Dayal's liking. On another occasion, a little boy of a certain family was attacked with cholera. Nagmahashaya was called in, and he treated the boy with the utmost care for a whole day, but nothing was of any avail, and the poor boy collapsed in the evening. His friend Suresh thought that Nagmahashaya would get a handsome fee that day, but in the evening he was found to return with an empty purse, deeply lamenting, "Alas, it was the only child of the family. All attempts to save him became futile." A gloom and void have now occupied their whole house. So keenly did he feel for the child that he could not take even a drop of water that night. Gradually, his practice began to increase immensely. Mrs. Pals appointed him as their family physician. For that, even today, Nagmahashaya is referred to as Doctor by the Pals. There was not a single premature death in our family as long as Nagmahashaya was our family physician. So testifies Babu Hadalal Pal. Once a female relation of the Pal family had an attack of cholera and Nagmahashaya was required to treat her. But the case soon took a very bad turn in spite of his careful treatment. Nagmahashaya got nervous and asked them to send for Dr. Bhaduri. Upon his arrival, Dr. Bhaduri was informed of the medicines administered to the patient. He was perfectly satisfied with the prescription and remarked that he had nothing to add. The Pals urged him, notwithstanding, to make such changes as he thought fit, but Dr. Bhaduri not only refrained from prescribing any other medicine, but also requested them not to place the patient under the treatment of anyone else. Gradually, the patient recovered under the treatment of Nagmahashaya. From that day onward, Pal's faith in their physician increased and they never called any other doctor to their family. They entrusted even the most difficult cases to his treatment. When the lady had recovered, Mrs. Paz represented him with a silver box full of rupees. Nagmahashaya never used to take any fees directly from their hands, as they were his benefactors. He used to say, "Whatever you have to give me, please give it to my father." So he did not accept the silver box or the money. The Pals thought he was unwilling to accept it, perhaps because the remuneration was not equal to his expectation. So they brought 50 rupees more and pressed him hard to accept the whole amount. But Nagmahashaya exclaimed with a touch of pathos in his note, "Sir, the price of the medicine and the whole amount of my fees cannot be more than rupees 20. Upon further insistence, he accepted that amount and not a pie more. Consequently, Mrs. Pals put the remaining money as a donation for the performance of Durga Puja. When the matter was reported to Deen Dayal, he could not contain himself. He to be drudging on for a petty salary even at that old age, and his thoughtless son to refuse to accept his just remuneration. How foolish, how absurd, how suicidal, he thought. But neither rebuke nor advice was of any avail. The son observed, "It is you, father, who always instruct me to tread the path of righteousness. In all conscience, how could I demand more? I know for certain that the price of the medicines given will at the most be rupees 6, and my fees for these 7 days cannot be more than rupees 14. So I have taken rupees 20 in all. To take more than this would be a sin. I beseech you, Father, therefore, not to take any more money on this account.